Welcome to Frank Buckley Interviews. Tonight my guest is a heart surgeon turned comic who became known as the Egyptian Jon Stewart.
Frank Buckley Interviews starts now.
His name is Baseem Youssef, and his comedy TV show was born amidst the Arab Spring. His political satire made a nation laugh during a revolution, but it came at a tremendous personal cost to the man who was making the jokes.
Had 40 million people, and with that success came a lot of enemies. I had trouble with the Islamist government, and then afterward the military, and then I ended up having my show shut down, and I escaped and came here to America.
How did it all end, and what is Baseem Youssef doing now? Our conversation when we come back. Baseem, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It really is an honor to meet you. You've been so important as a voice in free speech and journalism and comedy all at the same time. And for people who are not familiar with your story, let's refresh. Egypt, the Arab Spring. You are a doctor. You're a heart doctor.
Let me kind of break it down to you in less than 25 seconds.
Okay.
All right. Am I on timer?
Yes.
All right, good.
Go.
So I was a heart surgeon. I was about to come here, work here in the States. I was accepted already in a fellowship. And then right as I was doing that, the Arab Spring happened, a revolution in Egypt. And then I started to do my show, a YouTube show, just because I saw the discrepancy between what was happening in the streets and the brainwashing in the state-run media.
مفيش أي مبرر للعنف الغير مبرر يخش ويخوض التجربة دي بعد كده يتكلم بس وانت قاعد في البيت بتتفرج على التلفزيون أرجوك يعني فلتقل خيرا أو فلتصمت.
I didn't think anything about the YouTube shows. It exploded. Then I was offered to do a TV show. I left medicine, continued with a political satire TV show. It was called The Daily Show of the Middle East, or the Jon Stewart of the Middle East. Had 40 million people, and with that success came a lot of enemies. I had trouble with the Islamist government, and then afterward the military, and then I ended up having my show shut down, and I escaped and came here to America.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
Maybe 35 seconds, but I think we'll give you a pass.
Yes.
But to take you back to the Arab Spring, and as a doctor, you were first treating people, right, on the streets. You were there helping.
Like many hundreds of other doctors who took to the streets, we worked in makeshift clinics, and we were just helping those people who were injured. And I didn't think of anything beyond that. I didn't think of any political role or a media role. It just happened after the revolution.
And you start, your friend Tarek, I believe, is the one who said, let's make YouTube videos.
So, my friend Tarek, he was like a YouTube partner, so he knew that when I speak, somehow people listen. I don't know, maybe they were afraid. But he said, let's do a show. And we did a very low-cost show in the laundry room of my apartment. And I started writing the scripts and getting the footage and try to go in and out of the videos like the Daily Show, like that what I saw. And I didn't really think that it will have any effect or any impact. And I ended up having millions of people watching. And by the third week, I'm having TV offers. So.
Yeah. And eventually you had, was it 30 million a week who were
watching? 30 million for each episode, yes. It was a weekly episode.
And compared to the Daily Show had about 2 million a week.
Yeah, but here there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
But there it was like we were the only ones.
But to put it in perspective, 90 million people in Egypt, and a third of the population was watching you every week.
Yeah.
That's
half of them were hate watching, but that's okay.
and right, and by that you mean that they really did not like you. They didn't.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of people who are fans of the show, and there's a lot of people who just watch the show so they can attack it the next day. I mean, it was funny when I had my show airing on Friday, and then Saturday through Wednesday, clips of my show will be shown on the Islamist media, and then they will show a clip of the show. It's like, what do you think of this horrible person said about our Muslim president? And sometimes when they come back from a clip of my show, you'll catch them laughing. So that was fun.
and you laugh now, but it really was frightening for a while, wasn't it?
It was a little bit stressful because that is not a very welcoming atmosphere to do comedy.
أن أقتل باسم يوسف ليس الآن.
At the end of the day, I mean, I never called myself a freedom fighter. I never called myself a journalist even. I did comedy, and and people took it too hard sometimes. So the people who didn't like the show, so and that didn't just happen under the Islamists. It happened under the military. The people who were supporting the show under the Islamists, when they saw me making fun of the military, they turned the other way, including people from my family, including people who were close friends for 20 years, who would actually believe horrible stuff about me.
Yeah. And ultimately, you are, I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, run out of the country.
Yes.
You flee very quickly.
Yes. And because there was, the way that these regimes get you, they don't like put you in jail because of what you say. They will find something like a legal loophole or taxes or whatever. They will just get you there and make and then they will produce other evidence to say that you're a terrorist or whatever. So I knew that they were coming for me, and in a couple of hours I bought my ticket and I left the country.
When I think about this arrest warrant being issued against you for disturbing the peace or whatever it was, and really it followed this skit in which you had come out and worn this big hat and sort of mocked Morsi. I think in this country we don't understand how that could be such an offense against the government, that doing something like that, it makes us laugh. And
well, you're getting a taste of it right now, right? Well. Here's the thing, and I think you'll find a lot of parallels of what you have right now. Military and Islamist dictators, or dictatorships in general and around the world, they have nothing else but fear and fake respect. That's the pillars of their ruling. They have nothing else. They have no achievements. They have no social bonding that they will make people respect them and respect the process other than fear and respect. So when you mock them, you take away the only thing that's going on for them. And this is why when you have someone like the president who gets so angry about someone mocking him at SNL, or someone tweeting against him, or someone saying something against him, because he is insecure, because he knows that he has nothing else but fear and fake respect. The only thing
you're talking about President Trump. You're not talking about
I'm talking about here. Yeah. So they are in a way similar. The only difference is like here you have a system that does not allow the president to go after the people who mock them.
Right.
But it's the same exact mechanism. Whether Morsi or Sisi or whatever, they would not allow you to mock them because for them they are leaders, they are rulers. It's kind of a military mindset. How come a soldier make fun of the leader? You are there to obey.
Here's what some people are going to say. Some people who are supporters of President Trump are going to say, wait a minute, you're from Egypt, you're coming here to our country and telling us what's wrong with our country and our president. To them, you would say what?
Well, to them, I would say that this is what actually makes this country amazing and great. That like you are opening up your borders for people coming here. John Oliver is British and he's making fun of the president. Samantha Bee is Canadian and she's making fun of the president. You think that this, I will tell them that like this is the sign of a great country, that you are allowing your highest people in power to be criticized, not just by Americans, but people who live here. Because at the end of the day, I'm a resident. I pay taxes. I live here. I'm a contributing part of the community. And what makes America great is not you being above criticism, but you are always self-criticizing and you're always wanting to be better. Criticizing, putting down the president is not something that you should be ashamed of. It's something that you should be proud of.
And it was something that in Egypt, it seemed with your show, the show as it was known, and with the tens of millions of people who are watching you, that finally Egypt, my sense is, had turned that quarter and people had finally said,
Yes.
hey, We can laugh at ourselves. It's okay.
We can laugh at the highest power in the country. And to tell you, and to continue that answer for the supporters
Yeah.
of Trump, they when I was having my show in Egypt, all the Arab countries look to us with respect. It's like, oh my God, we wish we can have this. When you make fun of the president or criticize him, people look at you with respect, you know. And this is the problem with the narrative of the right wing in general, whether in Egypt, whether in America, even in France, because I heard the same narrative. It's like, oh, you have to be respectful. You shouldn't be making fun of us. You can't put your country down. That's not putting your country down. The same happened with the right-wing candidate in France, you know, Le Pen, when she said that the people on the left, they are disrespecting the country and they're always criticizing the country and making it horrible, feel horrible to live in. That's the same thing when people say when you protest, when you take a knee, you disrespect the country. As a matter of fact, the people who criticize the country the most are the people who want this country to be much better.
You think they are the patriots?
Yes, not the people say everything is okay, and if you speak about the president, if you speak about the flag, because the flag, the president, the constitution, all of these are made so you can speak your mind, even to criticize the very country that you're living in. And you do that to make the country be better.
We're in 2018 now, and a military leader is in charge of Egypt again. And where is Egypt today?
Well, Egypt, I think it's not as stable as it looks like. I think it's very fluid. I think people are afraid. And the problem with here's my problem with the military in general. It's not just the abuse of human rights. It's not just the crackdown on freedoms. It is the inability of anybody who can hold them accountable. The lack of transparency. And because of this, they are taking over the economy. And now I'm talking economics and food and money. Things are getting worse, and they are just like borrowing like there's no tomorrow. And there's no one telling them, what are you doing?
There's no accountability.
There's no accountability. So I think the economy of the country is going worse, is getting worse. I don't know where will that lead and what kind of instability that will result into. But I don't think that whatever is happening in the Middle East right now is sustainable.
And what about the people who thought that there was going to be change?
Culturally,
there would be change.
They're either in jail or afraid. There are more than 60,000 political prisoners there. And of course, there's no America to give you the usual slap on the wrist, you know, because I think Trump doesn't care. And Europe is saying, you know what, let's have a stable regime, because the alternative is having another refugee crisis. They don't want another Syria.
For someone who is so instrumental in this moment in time in Egypt and in the Arab Spring, to see what has happened this many years later, which is not what I suspect you had hoped. Is it painful? Is it disheartening? How do you feel 7 years later?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit disappointing, but you have to understand that revolutions don't happen in a couple of years. And I always say revolutions are not an event. They're long processes. And the process can go through destruction and heartache. 70 years ago, you had Europe suffering from military dictatorship and fascism, right? Second World War. It took 50 million people to die in order to get a free Europe.
Yeah.
And 100 years before that, Europe was, suffering from religious fascism. So you cannot just look at Sweden or France or Germany today and say, oh, look how good they went through a lot of pain and trouble and blood. And maybe we have to pay the price.
It's not over yet.
Oh, no, it's not. No, it's far from over. I don't know. Are we going to see it in our lifetime? I don't know. Is it 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Who knows?
At your height with the show, with so many viewers and so much influence, at some point, I guess the government comes after you and makes it clear that the show cannot go on. And so the network, your own network, turns on you, first at the CBC and then is it NBC?
NBC, NBC were nicer. They kind of like they came out very straightforward. Like we cannot handle the show anymore. CBC was just like I wasn't even like. I knew like everybody else waiting for the show to run that like the show was cancelled. And that then we went into arbitration case, and that's the case that they kind of like happened against me that made me flee. That's like because they can put me in jail on a technicality.
I see. And to go from that to having to flee the country, and now you're in Hollywood, and doing what so many people do, trying to find a gig. I mean, you're doing stand-up, you're developing comedies, you've written a book, you speak. But
I'm having my own podcast.
You're doing your own podcast.
Like 100,000 other podcasts.
No, but the podcast is Remade in America. And I just wondered, I don't want to say that it's inconsequential compared to what you were doing, but at a moment in time, you were part of a revolution.
Yeah.
And now you are here gigging it, as it were.
No, not necessarily because like even like the way I do the comedy, I don't do kind of like punchline setup comedy. I kind of like I still keep my comedy very political, especially in a time like this where like I'm an immigrant fresh off the boat. I'm coming here at the age of Trump. There's a lot of comedy, but there's also a lot of lots of messages that I can actually contribute.
I see.
There is and I back in Egypt that was a huge challenge, but I think I have like an equally difficult challenge here because I'm doing all of that with a language that's not my own. I'm doing it with English as my second language, doing comedy, doing stand-up, and I'm trying to bring forward a message of comedy and politics for people like me because I was not born here. I was not raised here. I'm not American. I'm not an Arab American. I'm still an Arab. I still have my Egyptian passport. I still live here as a resident. I just came here, and there's a lot of people from my own region that needs to be heard. Like a lot of people need to hear my point of view from people like me.
Yes.
Because I came from that region that all of you guys talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I had my contribution there, and I came here, and you need to listen to people like us.
And what is that message that when you do the comedy that I should get from the...
There's a lot of like how America is dealing with the Middle East. There is a lot of messages about me as an immigrant. What does it feel like?
What does it feel like?
Oh, well, you know, I'm lucky because I live in Los Angeles. But I look to how there's a kind of a war on diversity, and how like people from outside can tell you that diversity is your biggest point, is the strongest point for America, is the diversity that America enjoys, that you should look at the diversity as an advantage, not a burden. America has always thrived on diversity and not on some sort of an idea of a pure race. There's no race that is pure, and there's a lot of people who come from diverse different places in the world and different ethnicities that actually enrich this culture, and you need to embrace that, not fight it.
Are there any moments where you regret what you have done?
No, not at all. I have a clear conscience, clear mind. I did my job as someone who's using satire to bring important issues to the table. I did it under the Islamists, under the military, just like one regime was much stronger than the other. Of course, you will hear people accusing me of like being used by the military, but like it comes from the same people who were used by the military in order to alienate people from democracy. I have a clear conscience. I'm actually very happy with what I did, and this is a new chapter for me. Yeah. And maybe it all just meant to be that I will have all of that happening. So I'm gonna come here and have an interview at KTLA.
Do you ever wish you had stayed in Egypt and continued to fight?
I don't ponder on this. I don't linger on these issues. I deal with with my life as it is right now.
Yeah.
You don't want to just continue. What if? It's a rabbit hole. You don't want to go there.
Let's talk about your new chapter. You have this podcast that we were talking about, Remade in America. Mm-hmm. What are you saying in that podcast?
Well, I have always been fascinated by the outsider experience. People who are being pushed away because of their ethnicity, because of their orientation, because of their views, because of the color of their skin. This is not a show about immigrants. It's a show about anybody who feels an outsider, even if he's a white American born in the Midland. It doesn't matter. A lot of people feel that they're outsiders. So the experiences and the stories that I had on that show were amazing. From a stand-up comedian who immigrated with his parents as a 6 years old from Iran as the Iranian hostage crisis was starting, to the first Latina woman in NPR, to Carmen Esposito, who's an LGBTQ comedian, to Bartundi Thurston, who was an amazing African-American activist and comedian. I'm having like amazing guests on the show, and I'm enjoying them. I even like interviewed Jordan Peterson, you know, who I don't agree with him on so many things, but it was an interesting interview to speak about people who are different than you, and it was really interesting.
Yeah. This interview has been very interesting to me, and
Thank you.
I'm grateful to you, as I said at the beginning, for not only this conversation, but for what you did for journalism and for free speech and comedy at a very difficult time in Egypt. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you'd like to hear the entire uncut conversation with Baseem Youssef, go to the Frank Buckley Interviews podcast. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts, including Google Play and iTunes, and at the KTLA News app. If you'd like to give us some feedback on Frank Buckley Interviews, tag me on social media. I'm Frank Buckley TV on Twitter and Instagram, and there's a Frank Buckley Facebook page as well. And if you'd like to share the show with your friends around the world, you can share it when we post it on YouTube on Mondays. Just search for Frank Buckley Interviews. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.